fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
All right, guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. Lane here with you as always. Got my co-host with me. What's up, dude?
Oh, what's going on? Let's go.
All right, back for UFC Mexico. First fight, we got Muhammad Naimov versus Erik Silva, taking Naimov by first round knockout. I don't think Erik Silva's as bad as what people make him out to be. You know, in a tough fight with a good grappler with TJ Brown, and honestly, Naimov has some fights in his past where he's been held down a little bit, but he is just a really big 145er, very physically strong, young and hungry. These Tajikistan guys coming up. I picked against him twice in a row, and he's proved me wrong. And Erik Silva got clipped a couple times in that TJ Brown fight on the feet, so I got to stick with Naimov, and I think the power shows on the feet here. So give me him by a first round knockout.
Yeah, Naimov has 2 UFC wins under his belt, and he was a big dog in both of them. Dropped Nathaniel Wood in his last one, and then knocked out Jamie Malarkey in the one before that. Yeah, I just think he'll be a little bit better on the feet and be physically stronger, and we'll find a KO blow at some point. Yeah, I mean, Erik Silva has like four or five rear naked chokes, but I don't think he'll be able to get it to that position against Naimov here. So I like Naimov to win by KO. And
Naimov, we training in the mountains, brother. Actually, he's fighting out Colorado. This fight's gonna be at elevation, maybe an advantage there for him. Also, doesn't seem to slow down too bad. Again, Erik Silva don't take too much judgment in that fight. I think with TJ Brown, I think that is a hard grappling matchup, but you still gotta favor Naimov just with that stand up. So yeah, Naimov KO round 1. All right, for the next fight, we have Victor Altamirano versus Felipe dos Santos. Going with Felipe dos Santos. Altamirano, not a bad fighter, you know, good cardio, tough, likes to wrestle, but overall, just talent-wise, going to be a step behind in this fight. Dos Santos, the up-and-comer, everyone knows that fight with Kopp was just absolutely wild. Stood in there, and something that I saw out of him that I thought was just extremely impressive was that he wasn't fearful of Kopp at all. And you really see that with these shoot box guys, the Charles Oliveira boys. They just don't fear their opponents. And he went straight out and he just took the fight right to Kopp. And in this one, he's not going to do anything different, I don't think. He charges forward, good pressure, good use of all of his limbs, whether it's elbows, knees, punches. And he's got good grappling in his back pocket as well. So give me Dos Santos. And I'm going to take him by a pressure finish. I mean, he's gone to some decisions recently, but he's fucking people up, so I like a knockout.
Yeah, he's 10 years younger in this matchup at 23 years old versus 33, and I just think his diverse striking and grappling will pay dividends here. The elevation does kind of scare me a little bit, but he didn't really slow down in his decision against Kopp, and that was on short notice too, I do believe. So it does worry me a little bit, but I still like Dos Santos to find a finish here.
Another thing to look out for as well, Altamirano loves that left kick to the body, left kick to the head, sometimes down to the legs. And he was searching for body shots a lot more often with, you know, Tim Elliott and some of these other fights. And Dos Santos does leave his body a little bit open because he stands tall. In that Paiva fight, I saw him get touched the body a couple times. But overall power, I think that Hugo Paiva guy had some good power in his hands. Altamirano's going to have a real stunner to you know, crush Dos Santos to the body. You know, he might be a good parlay piece. I'm going to sit on this one for a minute. I don't think the odds will spike too crazy anywhere. I would imagine bettors will be on the Felipe Dos Santos side, though. Any more thoughts for you here?
Nope.
All right, Dos Santos KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Luis Rodriguez versus Dennis Bondar. Taking Luis Rodriguez. Dennis Bondar, you know, over these Ukrainian guys, there's like a number of guys who came out of Ukraine for fighting that just have like botched records. And I know Luis Rodriguez has some, fights against not the best fight or wins over not the best fighters, but still Dennis Bondar's just kind of submitting guys, not with a great ground game. There's a huge gap in his performances, which should be a red flag there. And overall, just Carlos Hernandez fight not impressed me. He's taunting his opponent while he can't land strikes. Just didn't really do anything the entire time. And mostly I see him throwing heavy overhands, which he's missing. And Luis Rodriguez kind of brings this Thai boxing style in, heavy stance. And I think he's just going to land the more influential strikes. And he showed good takedown defense in a couple of his fights. And even on the Contender Series, I was impressed with his grappling. So give me Rodriguez by decision. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you mentioned Bondar showboating a little bit. It really wasn't landing anything and was still showboating in the early stages of that fight. He does keep his guard pretty high up, and I've seen Rodriguez go to the body a few times in his previous fight, so I think that could be a weapon he goes to here in this one as well. Bondar, he's got 13 submissions, but when the fight went to the ground against Hernandez, he really didn't seem to be all that good. So
right.
I am a bit skeptical of his record. So Rodriguez showed pretty good control, and he cut off the cage pretty well as well. And he was switching stances, and I like this one to go a little bit longer. I think he'll have better cardio as well. So I like him by decision.
And I saw Bondar in a fight like a couple of years ago. I can't remember which one, but he had an arm triangle choke submission, and I think he had a couple of times where he was reversed and he was on bottom. Just not a great sign when you're, beating up some of these cans. Again, the takedown defense was there. What am I thinking? Oh, Luis Rodriguez coming down in weight for this to flyweight. That's where he took his Contender Series fight. He's been fighting bantamweight recently. Go look at this dude's Instagram right now, though. He looks fucking shredded. And Dennis Bondar, not the biggest flyweight. I think Luis Rodriguez is just me shredded for this fight. Stay a step ahead on the striking. He just needs to keep the output out. Sometimes he can just get a little bit lazy with how much he's punching. That's why a lot of his fights are going a little bit later. And also crazy good leg check on his leg kicks. People are smashing their shins into his shins. So other than that, I really like Luis Rodriguez as an underdog here. Okay, for the next fight, we have Claudio Puelles versus Fares Ziam. Interesting matchup, grappler versus striker to a T. I gotta stay with Ziam just based on that last performance of Puelles. It's gonna be hard for people to pick him. Although it is I think Puelles does stand as a very good underdog for people in this spot. This guy is just great at leg attacks. And even he had Dan Hooker in real bad positions. Dan Hooker's, a veteran of the UFC, and he's not the best on the ground, but he does know his game pretty well. And Fares Ziam, submitted by Terrence McKinney. He's been taken down prior, so there is a scare there. I wouldn't bet this fight if you're on Fares Ziam for him. I'll take Ziam by decision, though. Going to be a step ahead on the feet, and he just has great range control. And Puelles, not good at takedowns. That's just the base of the game here.
Yeah, Ziam has pretty good leg kicks. That could be an opportunity if Puelles can catch one of those legs. Like you said, he doesn't have good takedowns, but that is a possibility if he tries to get it to the ground, catching one of those kicks. But I think for the most part, this fight stays on the feet, and Ziam will be able to work his striking and win a decision here. Puelles, his striking is just not that good. So if it does stay on the feet, I obviously favor Ziam, but the worry is if it gets to the ground, like Puelles is really good on the ground and could submit Ziam at any time.
Right. Puelles is so weird to me. Like, he actually showed some like good speed and striking in like his Chris Gutzmacher fight, but then he has no confidence in actually throwing things, so it just doesn't come together. And then like he's also dealing with two opponents that he beat by submission who are trying to take him down, which is clearly like not the route to victory for them. Or like playing with him on the ground. Like Clay Guida just went straight across and tried to take him down and fucked himself. And this one, clearly, obviously, Ziam's going to try to stay on the feet. And if you don't think, like, if you take my opinion of the bad takedowns thing, DC, if you're ever going to take wrestling advice from anybody or they know what they're talking about, it's obviously DC. The Chris Gutzmacher fight, he had a really good point that every time Puelles is shooting a takedown, he drops to his knees and then crawls forward to try to get it versus, all in one motion. So it's going to be hard for him to land that timing, but he might tie up a leg. Who fucking knows? Any more thoughts here?
No, sir.
All right, Ziam by decision. All right, guys, for the next fight, we have Edgar Chairez versus Daniel Lacerda, scheduled for like the fourth time. We went with Chairez every single time, and we're going to stick with him. And I have more confidence than ever this time around. I mean, this fight's at elevation. You're dealing with a good Mexican with a good chin, with a good ground game. And Lacerda's gas tank's awful. He's just going to get burned out if he does survive a round. And Chairez will just fucking murk his ass. So I'm going to take him by a knockout, even though he was close to a submission. Give me I gotta stick with the first round. Late first round knockout, I'll say.
Right. Yeah, it's a bummer that we're not getting as good of a line on Chairez here as we did previously. I think he was like minus 220 or so. Now it's like minus 300, I think. So, yeah, you're going with Chairez the first 4 times, and we're sticking with him here again. So, yeah, Lacerda is just not durable at all. No gas tank. Even if he does survive a round, he's gonna be gassing out here at elevation. Chairez showed pretty good grappling against Tayara. He nearly got him in a guillotine at the end of that fight, and he's got decent striking as well. So, yeah, I mean, Chairez all day here. Yeah,
hit that finish bet. I know it's going to be like minus 200, but Jesus Christ, there's like no chance that Lacerda survives. CJ Vergara, all those fights, he's just getting fucking pounded. So, yeah. Chairez KO round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Jesus Aguilar versus Mateus Mendonca. This is easy money, in my opinion, on Mendoza's side. Jesus Aguilar, you're seeing a highlight win over Shannon Ross, and you can't judge an 18-second fight or whatever the fuck it was as this guy's going to beat Mendonca. I mean, first of all, something to really consider, another shootbox fighter at 125 training with Felipe dos Santos up until this fight. They got to be training together, so they're getting high-level training in before this. And Aguilar, kind of a guillotine or bust fighter. If you look at his record, he did not look good on the Contender Series. He got taken down, sat on bottom a lot of his fight, and then finally in the third round got his guillotine to win. But Mendoza, I think he's the better grappler. I think he's the better striker. It's mostly just pending his fight IQ and hoping he doesn't fish for a leg like he did against Menes. But anyway, give me Mendoza by a second round knockout. I think this guy's still dangerous.
Yeah, I think people will look at that Aguilar fight, his last one, and think he is all world here. That was his first KO, and of course it was against the most durable human ever in Shannon Ross. So, yeah, against Tatsuya Taira, yeah, we obviously know Taira's super high level, but he jumped for that guillotine right away, and he obviously didn't get it and was submitted shortly thereafter. So he is really a guillotine or bust. He's got a really, really short reach. I think Mendonca will have like a 10-inch reach advantage here. So at flyweight, that's huge. I think Mendoza will have the better striking, like you said. These shoot-to-box guys. He's still only 25 years old, so he obviously had a good fight with Bashrat in that loss, but he looked decent in that one. So give me Mendoza.
Yeah, and he was even doing good against Nate Maness in that fight. But again, he just fished for legs too long, and we've seen people make that mistake before. Again, he has like a 6-foot reach at 5'6", and Aguilar has, his corresponding height, if not shorter. It looks like it's 2 inches shorter than his height. So, huge reach disadvantage. Length in the kicks as well. Aguilar has short legs, so Mendonca is going to be ahead in the kicking department, the punching department. The only thing is he did get, KO'd slightly in his last fight, his head getting bounced off the canvas. The weight cut to 125 does look a little bit rough for him. But, he's had a little bit more time to readjust to this, and Aguilar only throws overhands and crazy wild hooks, and I think Mendonca is just better. So I'm shocked to see much of the community is on Aguilar and that this is a close fight and then odds, because I think it's not. I know. Easier to... Hopefully I don't bite my words there, but I do think it's easy money on Mendonca.
Yeah, I mean, coming back 4 months after KO, that could be what they're looking at. Aguilar in Mexico, his home, and elevation, perhaps, maybe. I'm not sure.
I think Mendonca wouldn't even be a bad idea to grapple. If you get past that guillotine, you win the fight. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Mendonca KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight we have Raoni Barcelos versus Cristian Quinonez. I know I just introduced them backwards. Whatever. I'm going with Barcelos. He's old. He's been on a little bit of a rough streak. Obviously, there's not a lot of wins in those last 5. But he's fighting high-level opponents, and he's staying competitive in a lot of these fights. And Quinonez, I think he's still a very good fighter. Overall, that grappling game, and I think Barcelos just can maybe implement a little bit more of that. And he just has a lot of experience here in the stand-up. So I'm going to stick with Barcelos. I'm going to take him by a submission, actually. And I like a finish in this fight for either fighter, but I'll stick with Barcelos. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I like Cristian Quinonez here. I think he's got really good striking. He's really fast, really crisp striking. And he's pretty rangy as well. He's got a good jab. In his last one, he obviously just rushed in quite a bit. He hurt Kang and just rushed in there and then got caught and then eventually submitted. So that's obviously a worry there. Grappling probably is where Barcelos could take advantage of as well. But on the feet, I really like Quinonez. His striking's really fast and really crisp. So I'll pick Quinonez, but not a ton of confidence just because Barcelos' grappling game and higher level of competition.
Right. I like the pace at what this fight could lay out to be. You got Quinonez light on his feet, snappy jab at distance, and Barcelos a little bit more like Yoel, tight in his stance and a little bit more hook-heavy guy. But again, great matchup. I don't blame you for taking the underdog here. Barcelos is definitely up there, about a 10-year age gap, and that proved to be a pretty big deal here in the UFC. So,
if the over/under is set at 2.5, I could possibly be looking at an under here.
I'm certain it will be.
Quinonez has been finished in all 4 of his fights, but Barcelos has been to decision in like 6 of his last 7, with the only one not being a decision was the Umar Nurmagomedov. Right.
I think it's going to be a nice number, too. If I had to guess, I'd say like plus 150 for that under 2.5, because Barcelos has gone the distance quite a bit in his career, only finished, I think, by Umar, maybe one way back in the day. I can't remember off the top of my head. But for the most part, it does feel like it's a turning point for that under, in my opinion. So, anyway.
Yeah, he did get dropped in that Kyler Phillips fight as well, too. So
hurt in the Victor Henry fight, too. So
yeah, he's obviously taken quite a bit of damage here, but he's obviously hasn't been KO'd besides that Umar one. But he's taken a lot of damage here of late.
All right, Barcelos submission round 2. Carson on Quinonez. I can't speak. Okay, for the next fight, we have Manuel Torres versus Chris Duncan, taking Manuel Torres. I really like him here, and I'm going to take my first round knockout the way that he wins fights. Cardio is a scare for this guy because he's just fighting in these one-round brawls over and over, it feels like again. I think the Frank Camacho one went to the second round, but for the most part, I just see Chris Duncan's chin is just not good, and Torres is fucking powerful, man. I mean, that Mata knockout was so incredibly violent. The Camacho knockout's pretty brutal. His Contender Series 1 was kind of stemmed off an eye poke, but you see the power in this guy's hands. He can get a little hook happy, but I think Chris Duncan's chin will fail him here, and I got to go with Manuel Torres.
Yeah, I like both these. I like this one to end early, and I think Torres will be the one to finish him. Torres, like you said, he's got 14 fights, 13 of them. 14 wins. 14 wins, 13 of them by first round finish. So when he's winning, he's usually winning in the first round, and of his 2 losses, they're both subs in the first round. So he's Mexican, and I assume he's got a decent enough chin. He does leave it up there at times, but he's able to take some of those. So Chris Duncan, he hasn't really been all that impressive in the UFC so far. Against Yanel Ashmus, Yanel broke his arm in the first round, and Chris Duncan still couldn't finish him. And then against Omar Morales, he had to go to grappling. He got hurt a little bit in the first round and went to grappling for the rest of that fight. So kind of underwhelming performances there in the UFC so far for him, and I think Torres will be able to put his lights out here. In the
Yanal Ashmus fight too, like he was still getting hit by the one hand. Like the dude, your opponent has one hand. That's the only one that's coming your way, and he was still getting clipped by it here and there. In the Omar Morales fight, he got rocked once, and he fucking crotch sniffed the entire fight. I mean, he didn't even have like takedowns. It was more just like sitting on the cage and holding a double leg that he couldn't finish. And going back to Charlie Campbell, rocked, Borishev knocked out. It's a bad matchup for him. The only thing that he's got going here is, I'd say, cardio past a round, and that's about it. So,
yeah, we just don't know what Torres' cardio past a round is because it's only been past a round once. So, yeah, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. We don't know.
All right, sticking with Torres by knockout round 1. All right, for the next fight, we have Yazmin Hauerdy versus Sam Hughes. Easy pick here. You got Yazmin Hauerdy. Sam Hughes is just winning fights based on facing opponents either with bad grappling or bad cardio or a mixture of both. Amorim, bad cardio. Lost to Pierre Rodriguez. Elise Reed, bad grappling, also kind of bad cardio. Estela Nunes, bad cardio. So she's winning fights that way. Again, like not too long ago, this girl was 5-4 in the UFC, and Yazmin, yes, she got clipped by Denise Gomes charging in, but other than that, Denise Gomes power puncher, so that you can take that. I don't judge it too heavily, is what I'm trying to say. Give me Hauerdy by decision.
Yeah, Mexico here, Mexican fighter. I think this will be a setup fight to get her back on track. Obviously KO'd in her last one, and she was stunned early in that Estela Nunes one too. So I just don't think Sam Hughes is all that powerful to find a KO in this one. So Jauregui, obviously the better striker, and I see her winning this one on the feet.
Right. Sam Hughes, she's just kind of a punching bag until her opponents get tired. So not a good attribute at this level. All right, Hauerdy by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Turcios. Actually, a really interesting matchup, and I think it's actually really hard for the odds to get a great read on this one because both of their styles are very crazy. I'm going to stick with Rosas, though. The wrestling is just going to be better. And Turcios, while he's extremely tricky as a scrambling grappler, he's getting taken down, and in a scorecard, that just doesn't look good. So I liked Rosas by decision. But once again, I would really suggest people don't trust this kid with their money. 19 years old, not a wealth of experience. Beating Terrence Mitchell, I mean, that was the easiest call in the world. Everyone knew that was a setup fight to get back on track. This is a little bit tougher, but I'll still stick with the young man. I do think he has a good upside. Very strong, good at getting to the back. But Turcios, very tricky grappler, and could also wear down Rosas' gas tank real fast as well. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Rosas will just be the better grappler here. I don't know if he'll be able to find a submission here or not. Turcios has never been submitted before. He's been KO'd once, but his other 2 losses were by decision. So I do tend to lean decision just with how durable Turcios is on not getting submitted. So I do like Rosas by decision here. Against Rodriuez, he obviously came out super hot and slowed down a little bit, but he was still doing all right for as much energy as he expended in that first round. So I'm not too worried about his cardio, but yeah, it's obviously here at elevation. It could mean something.
Yeah, the adrenaline dump is a really big thing that he's going to have to get over at some point. Like, I think he knew in that Terrence Mitchell fight as well that he could easily get him out of there, and it wasn't too shocking to try to do that. But over time, that's just going to be a bad trait to do. Like, Hamzat needs to get over it as well. But Turcios, also just a punching bag on the feet. You know, he's just kind of more like, I'll eat it and I'll keep coming forward with his crazy long hair. God, I forgot to say, you know what I'm saying, like 15 times. I thought I was going to try to do that in this. Just Turcios never stops saying, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, I see on the feet as well. Maybe if Rosas paces the fight a little bit better, maybe just touching and going out of range. He's not a great striker himself, though. He doesn't have much head movement, but he will be faster, in my opinion. So, yeah, give me Rosas Jr. by decision. Okay, for the next fight, Daniel Zellhuber versus Francisco Prado. Taking Zellhuber, staying on the Mexican side here. First of all, I gotta say, I think the reaches are listed wrong. I don't think Prado has a 76-inch reach. You just go to this guy's fights, his arms really don't look that long at all. So, just something to think about. I think that there's a bigger reach advantage there than listed. Because we've seen inaccurate measurements. I mean, Caio Baralho they have him at like 5'9" on this, and he's 6'3", so... Anyway, yeah, I gotta go with Zellhuber. I think, obviously, the length and I'd say for a cardio advantage, a grappling advantage. The only thing that he scares me with is he isn't the fastest fighter, and he can struggle to get his head off the center line when people charge him, like a fast fighter like Giagos when he darted into range, or Ogden's jab, where he just able to keep on the outside. But Prado's a little bit hook heavy. He likes to use his elbows, and Zellhuber also great knees, other tools. I like a decision, but what do you think here?
Yeah, I think I do think Prado will have the worst gas tank out of the two. Zellhuber's been to decision 5 times, and Prado only the once against Jamie Malarkey. Prado's winning all of his fights by finish here, and it's usually pretty early in that first round. So he could possibly gas out here at elevation. So I do, the longer the fight goes, I do tend to lean Zellhuber, but yeah, like you said, Zellhuber was cracked against Giagos early in that fight, but he's able to recover. He seems to have a pretty good chin. He recovered really quickly.
Use his feet well to circle.
Yeah, he did. And those Mexicans, they always got a good chin. So that would worry me a little bit, but yeah, I do think Zellhuber wins this one.
A big problem I see in Zellhuber's game is he tries to be the counterpuncher at times when he has the advantage at range. Like, that was the thing with the Trey Ogden fight and the Giagos fight, is he's waiting for them to come in and then clip him. It's like, no, dude, you have the range. Use the range, and that can struggle for him. Obviously, he's a big fucking lightweight, man. I mean, Prado's, small, dense, and powerful, but Zellhuber's, big, lengthy, also better grappler. And those knees
his
are just...
His takedown defense was super good.
Oh, yeah.
He just didn't throw like a ton of strikes. His volume wasn't the best, but he was still, when he was hitting, it was doing damage. So
right. Not a ton of confidence from us on this one, but we'll go with Zellhuber by decision. All right, for the next fight, we have Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega for 5 rounds. Honestly, a make or break fight for Brian Ortega's career, at least in my opinion. Huge time gap in his performances, hurt his shoulder in their first fight, and then, losing to Volk. I'm going to go with Yair. We're going to go with Yair. Touch and move on the outside, as we saw in their first fight, and even when the fight did go to the ground, T-City just doesn't have ground and pound, really, and Yair has... all the case for damage, like for the first 3 minutes of every round on the feet, and Ortega might just have control. So I don't know. I think the judges would go Yair's way. Also, takedowns are not that great for Brian Ortega. But the biggest reason why I say make or break for Ortega is if he can't stop taking this much fucking damage in these fights, his career is just going to shorten like significantly. So, if Yair is just teeing off on him the entire time, I don't think we're going to see a resurgence. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1.5 year layoff for Brian Ortega here, going against Yair Rodriguez, who I think will have a huge speed advantage here. Even in that first 3 minutes or so before that injury, I mean, it felt like he was a lot quicker hand speed and with the kicks too, so... I feel like he'll be doing a lot more damage, and Ortega possibly will be able to get it to the ground. But like you said, his takedowns aren't the best, and I just feel like Rodriguez will be good enough defensively grappling and win this on the feet with damage. Ortega, I mean, his face doesn't look that good when he's taking all that damage, so I think that may sway judges here.
And another thing that scares me in this fight that can make it interesting is that Brian Ortega is always like pretty good at being on the front foot. He's never really like walking backwards. He's typically the guy moving forward or holding his ground, which is partially why I think he eats a lot of damage against these guys on the outside. But that's going to wear on Yair. He's got a high output style. He's throwing a lot of strikes, fancy kicks, and then also, just throwing kicks like that and having to keep moving over the course of 5 rounds to really weigh on you. So there is a chance Ortega could really work his way into the fight late in this, but when's the last submission Ortega's had? Is that Cub Swanson? That's a long time ago.
Yep, 2017. Kind
of hard to believe. I mean... Obviously, almost subbed Volk. Pretty much did sub Volk. If that was anybody but Volk, it's a submission. But overall, just a little bit too happy to be on the feet. And again, the takedowns could be a big part of the game, and I don't know if he's going to get there. Also, we saw this in the small cage last time in the Apex or somewhere. Maybe was it in San Diego? Was it in a big cage?
No, I thought it was in New York somewhere.
Well, anyway, this isn't a big cage that favors Yair. So that's my last thought on this. Anything else from you?
No. Yair's pretty decent off of his back as well too. So
elbows.
I think he'll be able to get up if he does get to his back. So yeah, I like Yair here.
All right. Yair by decision. Okay, for this fight, the main event. Guys, before we give our prediction, please drop a like. Check out the Patreon, guys. Go get your bets over there. I already have some posted for this UFC Mexico card. And comment, subscribe, do all that dumb shit everybody has to say. So, anyway, Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval. I know, probably the worst promo, but this stuff is pretty gay, right, guys? Anyway, Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval. Going with Brandon Moreno. I don't totally agree with the odds. It's a tough matchup. Moreno's in these close, brawling fights, but overall, a little bit more sound on the feet. Royval just had nothing good on the feet for Pantoja when Pantoja was exhausted, and then just gets taken down a little too easy. I know his jiu-jitsu is tricky, but what I think makes this fight interesting is that Pantoja is really heavy and great in top control, just laying, and he just chose to lay on Royval. I don't know if Moreno's going to do that, so I don't feel as confident in Moreno. We'll take him by decision, but this could be a strange fight.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be close for the 5 rounds, but in Mexico with Moreno being there, and I think that could sway some of the judges. The crowd's obviously going to be cheering a ton for Moreno, and every time he lands or seemingly lands a strike,
Olé!
Yeah, they're going to be cheering for him. So, yeah, I feel like the odds are probably right here. Just with that, Royval coming in short notice here as well at elevation. I know he trains in Colorado too, but this still is a little bit higher than Colorado. So,
right.
Yeah, I feel like Brandon Moreno is pretty good everywhere. I feel like mostly it will be on the fight. On the feet here, and he works the body a ton too. You saw Kai Car France with that liver kick. That was pretty darn good. He was probably losing that fight too in that 3rd round. So that's obviously those body shots pay dividends as the fight goes on too. So I like Moreno here, probably by decision, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Moreno is also very good at adding a new wrinkle to his game in every fight. You know, it'll be the leg kick maybe here, it'll be the body kick in that Kai Car France fight, it'll be the jab in another one. He's good at, adding those diverse elements. Both guys fantastic on the ground, have to lean, obviously, with Moreno with the wrestling side of things. And even in the Royval fight, he had great control against him and didn't look tired even when Royval's arm fucked itself. So, yeah, interesting main event. Kind of would hope Moreno wins because Mexican fans, if you go back to like 2018 or whatever when Yair fought Jeremy Stevens and the eye poke ended the fight in Mexico, how ballistic they went when that main event didn't happen. I mean, I'd be pissed. So, but it's good in the foreign countries when the fighter from that country wins. So, although Royval is Mexican himself, I believe. So,
yeah, I feel like the Mexicans here are getting pretty favorable matchups for quite a few of these fights. So, I see a lot of Mexicans winning on this card.
All right. That's all I got. That's all we got for the picked portion of this video. So, all right, guys. Anything else from you, Torres?
Like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, get those bets in early, beat some line movement.
All right, guys. To recap the bets for UFC 298, losing results, but still positive, like 2 units on the year. Started off. Let's just talk about the main event because everyone loves Volk, but I do have to appreciate Ilia Topuria, and if there's someone that's gonna do it in spectacular fashion, it's gotta be Ilia. Kind of get the vibe during that fight that Volkanovski was a little bit afraid of getting caught because he wasn't fully committing to punches, and it just felt like Ilia was even though like the scorecard went to Volk in round 1, it didn't really feel like it. It felt like Ilia was the one that was super threatening. So, still a good matchup. Don't know if I want to see that fight again, though, for Volk. That's pretty tough. Also, the Whitaker-Costa fight, that was like one of the early fight of the year contenders. That was a nice one. But But yeah, bets. I broke our rule of the try not to bet chick fights, and, you know, I paid the price for it. But, you know, Andrea Lee, her game's all over the place. The fight IQ isn't great. The thing is, I think she's the better wrestler than Miranda Maverick, but she didn't shoot any takedowns. I mean, she had that suplex right in the fight, and she looked slow at range. Maverick was just able to stick and move. Nothing too crazy there. Bad read. But then again, like, Lee's tricked me with, like, you know, making a close fight with Macy Barber and these other things. So it's a little bit confusing there. Next, Roman Kopylov. You know, I'll still stand by my initial breakdown. My initial breakdown was, you know, where these guys are both weak, the other one is great. And I think Hernandez just did such a great job of pushing Roman backwards in order to start his grappling sequences. Kopylov didn't really stand his ground very well, like, as the fight went on. He did, like, the first couple minutes, but then every time Hernandez came forward, Kopylov was more thinking about getting taken down than he was sending something back to really punish him. And, yeah, I mean, as time went on, it just started to favor Hernandez more and more until that, you know, big takedown where it's going to be over and you're going to face the killer of a grappler. But, you know, you lose there, but, you know, you're really searching for a big win if that one does turn around on me. Next, Quinlan and Danny Barlow under 1.5 rounds. I mean, there was a finish in the fight. It just didn't happen the right timing. The hard thing is, Quinlan clearly has a pretty good chin, but he's marching forward with his hands up, and it's hard to get anything through that clean when he just has his hands up and he's unwilling to really give anything. So yeah, I still kind of stand by that one too. I think Barlow was going for some nice big strikes, but again, Quinlan just not giving him too many openings for that. Jeff Neal, Ian Gary, pretty easy over 2.5. Ian, like I said, Ian Gary's like Izzy. He's just gonna run and he's gonna, like, try not to get clipped no matter what. He's just gonna run around and you know, that was his goal. Obviously he had a little bit better striking or just, like, getting in and out of exchanges, but weird scorecards. I could kind of see why. It felt like Gary won all 3 rounds just because he wants to run the whole fight, and clearly he's having success at it, and Neal doesn't want to chase him the whole fight, so that's kind of like the optics of the fight, you could say. And then finally, Val Woodburn, Elliott. I got Elliott by decision. You know, a scary bet because it started crazy, but Woodburn just fucking laid on the ground and didn't get choked out, I guess, and we got our bet. Both gas tanks were not too great in that one, but overall, I still like the card. You know, Volk losing doesn't hurt my feelings too much because Ilya is such a great fighter. If it was some trash can with a weird knockout, it would be, you know, less fun for everybody, but it's a good send-off with the belt. Another reason, man, these chick fight things, like me betting Lee, I wanted to bet Amanda Lemos, and I'm glad I didn't, but, like, it's the same thing where, like, it seems like Amanda Lemos should win that matchup every single time, and then you get into the fight, and she makes those dumbass decisions the entire fight, like going to the ground and just constant mistakes. You know, you did a knockdown, and you got dirt on the ground, and she just rushes into her guard. I get right away you're trying to get the finish, but then she stayed there. It just doesn't make any sense. Merab's pretty wild, man, and yeah, I still like the card. I don't know what people thought, but I enjoyed it. All right, guys. Peace.
I know. It doesn't matter from the trenches. I'm built like this. Don't doubt me, so I couldn't do it.